Hello, happy
Hey,
Wednesday.
everyone. Yay, happy Wednesday, y'all.
Happy
Yeah.
Wednesday and happy
Happy-
Inauguration Day.
Happy Inauguration
Yes.
Day.
Even more exciting.
Oh,
Who
man.
Early this morning celebrating. Did y'all get up and watch the inauguration?
I did.
Yeah.
And that
It
was
was,
really
uh,
awesome. What'd you
Yeah.
say, Roy?
Oh, I was saying Katie and I got up at 6:30 this morning to start watching stuff. we
I
waited
didn't get up
until
that
after Cheeto Head got out of there, and then we turned everything on and started listening. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't quite get up that early because we had a late night last night, but man, I was like so excited to watch
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Who thought I was that excited about a 78-year-old white man becoming president again? Right?
Well, it was nice to be able to just have a sigh of relief for a change.
I know.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It's kind
I
of
mean-
interesting too. Ever since Twitter and Facebook banned "He Who Will Not Be Named," it's kind of like I wasn't waking up like, what is going to happen today now?
Right. I know. I love that someone posted like, oh my God, we can all follow the POTUS account again on Twitter. I'm like, yay.
Oh, Dean's in. Hey, Dean.
Wow.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Just for continuity, little introduction. I'm Roy Powell. We've got Kim Colaprete and Rocky Flowers. We're all with Team Diva Real Estate and Caldwell Banker Bain. It is Wednesday, the 20th of January, Inauguration Day.
Inauguration Day,
And
yeah.
this is our Roy and Kim show with special guest
Yeah.
Rocky Flowers.
Hey, Rocky, thanks for
Thanks so
joining
much
us.
for having me today.
I know, especially on such an auspicious day. We have Rocky on the show.
Yeah.
We're not just celebrating a new president, but the first woman vice president.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How awesome is that?
Long overdue.
Yeah.
Mhm. I think I posted like 36 years overdue on Twitter, and someone said, no, longer than that. And then someone had said, yeah, what about 232 years overdue? And I was like,
Yeah.
what on? That
fair.
is so true, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of funny, like Rocky, you were saying a minute ago, like not having to worry about Twitter, and it's like, yeah, maybe we can venture back into using social media again.
Oh yeah,
Just in general.
Right. I could actually get good information on Twitter and stop doom scrolling every day.
So that's so funny because right after the inauguration, when they were doing all their like putting around and stuff, we were watching on the New York Times website. And so it was just like open audio, and Katie and I were both sitting there scrolling Twitter, and I was like, so does this still count as doom scrolling? Because everything seems pretty happy all of a sudden.
It's joy scrolling now, right?
Charlie and Michael, I see you guys are in the feed. Good to see you guys. Hi.
hello.
Hi, friends. So it's definitely and it's interesting because I was like so convinced there was going to be something crazy was going to happen today. I was like, okay,
Seriously.
we need to be prepped for having a conversation about the crazy shit that happened, and nothing happened.
I mean, let's be honest, Kim. Last Wednesday, power outage. We couldn't even do the show. The Wednesday before that, the assault on the Capitol. Like, we were all thinking there was going to be wildness to talk about today. So, I'm glad we don't.
Yeah, it was funny because someone posted on Twitter a photo of a lone Trump protester on the steps of the New York City Capitol, like just completely by themselves.
What a way.
And I was like, oh, bad for you that you're all alone. He was like, well, I was expecting thousands of people to be here protesting. And I was like,
Well, no,
Not today.
not today.
I'm just excited that we're able to get stuff done.
Yeah.
That they're really aggressive with the agenda this next couple of years while we for sure kind of control all three branches of government. But it's going to be nice to be able to get stuff done, to care about human rights, number one.
Oh, my God.
Just basic.
Right. To undo all the stupid shit that Trump did, like get rid of the Muslim ban immediately. I think that's one of the first things Biden's going to do. Get us back in the Paris.
Climate
climate
accord.
accord. Yeah. I mean,
the World Health Organization.
Right.
He's got 17 executive orders he's signing, reversing all the nonsense that we've had to deal with the last 4 years.
Right. Also, I think we're going to have the first transgendered person as a cabinet member.
Yeah,
that's true.
The Assistant Secretary of Health, if I'm correct, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And she's from Pennsylvania, my home state.
That was really such an unexpected pleasure too. And I was looking at the, just the people he's brought in. There was a picture of the story, and it's just the coalition of like all types of different people from different backgrounds, sexuality, gender, ethnicity, culture. It's just so refreshing, and I'm glad that we're starting to kind of, at least we have somebody that's trying to reflect what America actually is.
Yep. Right.
Everyone's voice is heard.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And Tyler just, hi Tyler, or Tim Tyler just jumped in to say that New York City was done with Trump a long time ago. Yes, I know, that's very true. I'm sure there's some lone people out there in the hinterlands who are still,
probably a big reason he took his last ride to Florida instead of New York.
Well, I heard a rumor that Florida doesn't want him either, but he's got to go somewhere. So I mean, maybe we could talk a little bit about real estate for
sure. Yeah, I mean, now that we've trapped you all here with inauguration tidings,
we have no crazy information to talk about. Well, I'm sure that will change week to week. It's only the first day of Biden-Harris presidency. Something, something's going to happen. But I think it's great that we could talk about real estate for a short bit and take a little break.
Yeah, and that was one of the big reasons we wanted to have Rocky on this week, was to talk about, because Rocky works with a ton of buyers. Rocky and I always are, competitive between us. He works with a few more buyers than I do, a few less listings than I do, but we're always competing with each other. But
nothing wrong with some healthy competition there, Diva Dudes.
We like each other.
And with competition comes support too when we need it. So
that's right.
Yeah, that's true too. But yeah, so I know the three of us were talking the other day about this and what we were going to talk about today, which is that January has sort of surprisingly, but not that surprisingly, been extremely wild for buyers and for sellers. I mean, just from my point of view, I've had a bunch of landlords calling me about whether or not it's time to sell their condos and townhouses and single family homes. And then as I've been comping things, it's been kind of funny. Single family homes obviously are super hot. Townhouses are kind of flat, and condos are selling very low right now. And that's the exact same thing I'm seeing with my buyers too, which is buyers who are buying condos, we can get into contract easily. Townhouses, maybe, it's 50-50. And then single family homes, it's everything.
January is always an interesting month because we're coming off of traditionally the slower time of year. So in October, November, December, and January is always challenging because, and actually it has been, especially the last 5 years, because there's this kind of mindset that January is going to be slow. And in our experience, I know our listings in January always do amazingly well because the perception is no one's out there, but there really are a lot of buyers and
out there,
not want to list.
Right.
Yeah. And I think this year is even worse. I mean, both Rocky and Roy, you both mentioned that you have agents calling you for listings that didn't sell last year.
Right.
Because their buyers are desperate for things to buy, and they're calling you on condos and townhouses that didn't sell last year, saying, "Hey, are you willing to,
and that's the thing,
make a deal and sell it now?"
Yeah. I mean, for mine especially, it's our friend Christy. Hey, Christy, if you're watching, we took her unit off the market. She rented it for 6 months and decided to rent it again for another 12 months. And another listing went live in the building, and people are now calling me to see if they can buy hers off market,
right?
Because that's a less competitive situation, in which she'll sell it. I mean, if the price is right, she'll sell it. But it's just kind of odd because that's not, usually that's a desperation step that comes after competing on the weekly. It's listed on Wednesday. It looks at offers on Monday, which right now in the South End and up north, like Linwood North, Kent South, I'm seeing a lot of stuff that's listing on Friday afternoon and looking at offers Monday morning.
Right.
The
market's moving really quickly.
So it's pretty wild.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious for both of you, because I do more listings than I do buyers, but I do have a few buyers that I work with.
Yeah.
What do you think are the most important thing that buyers who are going to come into the market, who are currently in the market, need to know for being competitive in 2021? What are like the
Well, I would say you have to go into this market and you have to be ready from the time you dip your toe in. And the first step you need to do is really get pre-approved. Because we're not going to be able to help you get into a home unless you know exactly how much it is that you can buy. And with that, don't always just try and say, oh, I want to buy an $800,000 house. Figure out how much you want your comfortable payment that you're going to be able to pay and live comfortably. Yeah. Figure out what that payment is and base how much you're going to buy on that payment.
Right.
The second thing is like, I think that this year more so than like, 2020 was kind of a fluke year, but like 2018 was one of those years that was pretty competitive, but it was still a more market. I would say that this year you're going to have to make some compromises on what it is that you want. You're not going to get you're not getting your dream house in this market that we're in now. There's just so little inventory and there's so many buyers, and you're going to have to kind of compromise on some of the things you may not have had to compromise in 2018 and 2019.
Right. Good
Can
point.
I piggyback something on that, Rocky, that I think kind of ties in with that too? From the buyer standpoint, perception of value is always kind of a struggle, but it's even more so in an extremely fast market. So as a listing agent, you can pretty much just pick a price based on what you've seen other things sell for, and that's a good starting off point. But for buyers, it's a lot tougher because they may not actually understand how quickly the market's moving. New comps, or like when a house sells, we find out its sale price 30 days after it went,
right. And at that point, the market's moved again, right?
So if every house is going $50,000 to $80,000 over asking, you're looking at purchase prices at one level. You're looking at purchase prices here, and then the sale price is here, but you don't find out for 30 days. So you might be chasing the market value up in a way that's like. Right. So like if you're looking at something at 575 and you don't think its value is 675, it may not be up to you as a buyer to decide that. It might be the other 10 buyers that are writing offers that are going to decide that value is there. So it's another point of like being, values are really hard to tie down in a super fast market. And that's why, and that's another thing to be prepared for.
Right. Well, and also as someone who does a lot of listings, when you're working with sellers, this time of year is difficult to because you're looking backwards on a market that is I wouldn't say a declining market, but usually fall is a slower market, right? Yeah. So the things aren't selling for as much over asking. Some things aren't even selling in multiple offer. It's a little bit of a slower market. And if the market is shooting up faster than you can predict or that you can see, and you only have comps that are 3 months old from October, because there's so few listings, even in a slow market, there's still so few listings to use as comparables.
Right.
You're working with numbers that are already old for where the market is going.
Exactly.
You might see huge bumps in prices in the first part of the year because people don't know how to comp or where to put those prices. And there's a lot of like dart throwing, like, okay, I know that price might be low, but am I overpricing it by going this far above where I think the market should be? Am I underpricing it too much? And then I'm going to sell it for like 20% over. I mean, the first few months of the year are always a little bit like a guessing game of where to price a property, and then see wild changes, and then things start to shake out more consistently.
Totally.
What Roy was saying too, like we're looking at this older data, and from a buyer's perspective, it's hard to know what to pay for something because you obviously you want to get the property, but you also don't want to pay some ridiculous amount, which sometimes you may have to just suck it up and do that. And then it's like preparing yourself for, okay, what's going to happen if there's a low appraisal. And this time of year, January and February are probably the most frightening times of years for low appraisals for buyers, because the data we're using is on, and the appraisers have to use is on properties that sold during the time of year that's traditionally a little bit lower of a sale price. And so this is this time of year always kind of gets me a little nervous with buyers. As far as the appraisal goes, but it's something that buyers just have to look at and see, what are you willing to do to get the property that you want, the neighborhood that you want to be in.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, Rocky and Roy. It's a good conversation to have with your buyers that the price that the seller is pricing this at is based on old information.
Right.
Probably from comparables that could be as far back as August, right? We look 6 months back, to get at least enough data. And we'd love to only look 2 or 3 months back, but if there's no data, you gotta get the comparables somehow. So you really need to let your buyers know that this is just a target price based on looking backwards, and the market's moving forwards. So you need to look forwards and think about, okay, if the market went up X percentage last year and that's the expectation this year, where is this market going? And therefore, like you said, Roy, if the house is priced at $575 and you think it's only worth $635 or $600, but someone's willing to pay $700, that's where the market's going, right?
Well, and not only that, that becomes the floor of the market.
Right.
So if we're looking at, if we're looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Ballard, and there are a bunch of them, not enough, but a bunch of them, and one of them sells for $700, the next one lists at $700. That one sells at $800, the next one lists at $800. And it kind of does become this like escalation, in list price and sale price, which we usually see kind of top out in June. Usually about June is the time where the list price and the sale price finally meet. And then we see a little bit of a market correction.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Tim also jumped in to say that in Jersey, they're seeing 6 to 10 offers for marketed properties. And that's normal. And that's pretty similar in Seattle. And it's interesting because some of the stats I've been reading, I don't pay a lot of attention to nationwide stats because they don't usually influence or have any relation to like our local statistics because they're so different. But it's interesting that they said that the market nationwide went up about 8% last year, which is that's huge. That's so high for a nation. Usually it's like 3 to 4%, maybe 5%. But 8%, that shows you that that what COVID has done really driven a certain sector of the market to the extreme. And I bet in other, I'd be curious to know, Tim, and other people who are not in Seattle, are your condo markets and, townhouse markets being influenced by COVID the way our market is?
Yeah, because I think, you said the right phrase there, certain sectors of the market. I had an interesting thing where I sold a townhouse last year, and then one of the neighbors called me the other day to do a market analysis for them. So I sold one in June. We brought it on it's on Capitol Hill. We brought it on right during the protests and everything else. And we got a really good price from one offer. Yeah. And I did the market analysis from that point to now. And the sale price for that style of townhouse has actually dropped 4%. If you're using the data from June of last year to December of last year. Now, January is a whole nother beast, but it really does also go to show that like there are market changes that are happening where if you are looking for building equity and you're looking for building homeownership, a single family home is not the only option for you. There are plenty of townhouse options and plenty of condo options that could be a really good way to get in now. And then when we see those values increase in a couple of years, when we're all back going to bars and restaurants and working downtown and walking everywhere, that could be a way of building equity that, is going to actually build faster than if you're buying a single family home in the burbs right now.
Right. That's true. If you don't need a single family home in the burbs,
And the burbs here, we're talking about Seattle neighborhoods because single family homes are within 2 miles of downtown. So the burbs here are Beacon Hill, North Ballard, West Seattle, like not even like talking about Burien, Kent, Renton, like
Covington.
Anyway, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Rocky. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's okay. Well, that's what I was we were talking this a little earlier, but like the inventory is going to be so tight this year that buyers are really going to have to rethink what they're willing to get into. And like you were just saying, Roy, as somebody that was considering and really stuck on having a single family home, a townhouse may be your only option if you want to be in a neighborhood you want to live in. And so you have to accept that and say, and think of the bright side. Well, hey, I'm going to be able to build equity here so that in 5 years I can have a launching pad to the type of home I want. People that are looking at townhomes, you may be priced out of the townhome that you want, and you may have to consider a condo. But look on the bright side, you can build that equity from there. And here's the thing about condos. Condos have been a little stagnant for like the last year and a half. We saw a little spike in January of last year, but condos have been really flat. And I think that we're going to see that improve in the next 2 to 3 years. We were talking about this earlier in the week. And I think that, if you get in a condo now while things are less expensive and cheap, to what Roy was saying, when people go back to work, they're going to want to be in these more urban areas that they've kind of let go. And we're going to see probably condo prices kind of take back off again.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, 2021. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You go first. Yeah.
I was just going to say, it's interesting the waves of how different things in our society impact real estate. And having been in real estate for 20 years, I've seen these different waves, and this is one of the first waves I've seen where I wouldn't say that COVID isn't economic, because obviously there's economic impacts that have happened, but the true impact of COVID has been really like not an economic impact to the market, but kind of a lifestyle impact to the market, right? And those lifestyle changes are really driving the market in a different way than the market's usually driven economic impacts, like a recession or bust or a downturn.
I think we might start to see an economic an economic impact on our condo market, specifically this year. I think 2021 is the year of condos. Like if you want home ownership and you want to get out of your apartment and you want to live near Seattle, buy a condo, because I think what we might see is a lot more landlords that are fed up with renting want to sell their properties, which is going to continue to overload the condo market. And it's going to put a lot of, potentially never buyers, in the position to where they can actually afford to buy into their downtown, to buy into their Seattle and live there. I mean, in December, I sold a 2-bedroom condo out here in West Seattle for $280,000.
That's crazy.
That's wild. And it's in a great neighborhood. It has all the walkability you could ever want. It's right on the rapid ride line. You're 20 minutes from downtown, even with the bridge nonsense.
Yeah, so, that's crazy. I mean, think about the fact that you can get a foothold in a Seattle market for $300,000 to $400,000, which sounds really high for the rest of the country, but for Seattle, that is.
But that $300,000 to $400,000 is going to get you walkability. It will probably get you, a balcony. It will probably get you tolerable dues and
reasonable dues, parking, right? And and we know, if you're talking to an agent like you guys or like Team Diva or a comparable team of agents, we know the buildings in Seattle that are quality buildings that are good investments. And we also know the buildings you should maybe avoid. And we also know how to get that information if we don't know it. So, that's really helpful for people who are nervous about condos, because a lot of people don't like not having that control.
The other thing, there is the Bricks, I'll tell you, the Bricks is, it's a pretty nice building on Capitol Hill, right in the middle of everything, walkable to everything.
Right on Valley, right on Broadway. Sorry.
Broadway.
Yeah. And I've always loved. I remember when they built the building, I was like, I want to buy in there, and I didn't. I bought in my place, which I love. But I keep seeing these places that are in these, nice luxury buildings that are like dirt cheap. I mean, I'm like, oh my God! If I could rent my unit, I would rent my unit out and buy one of these other places, because they're just such a good buy right now. And I hope that people that have, were kind of frustrated and didn't think they were going to be able to buy something, they take a look at condos and our condo market, because you can get a really great condo in the city right now and build your equity.
Yeah, right. And it's something actually that Chavi and I are thinking about doing. We're like, maybe we want to downsize, in a few years when we send Quinlan off to college, and maybe we should buy a condo now and rent it if we can, instead of like waiting 5 years till the market has, come down and gone back up again, because if we know we want to have a condo and this is the time to buy one, we just got to suck it up and do it. Right. And figure out a way to hold on to that until we're ready to use it.
And that brings up another part of the conversation too, which is our local rental market, which right now, we're seeing screaming deals, because a lot of renters are trying to buy and they're trying to get out of their leases.
Right.
We're seeing a lot of apartments listing for less than they listed for last year, the year before. So, it is a good time to be a renter. It may not be the best time to be a landlord based on, the value that you're going to get. Case in point, if you went out and bought a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo today, you may end up renting it for less than your mortgage for the first couple of years.
Right.
Just because mortgage, purchase prices are still inflated over what they would be for the rents that you can get. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad idea. It just means you might want to potentially put more cash up front so that your mortgage payment is lower, because you also have to cover the dues that are going to be happening too. But another thing that I saw come across my desk yesterday, I'm pulling up a screenshot of it.
Oh, right. It's that in the legislature that they've been talking about. Right?
Yeah. The state bill SB 5160, which is they're talking about extending the governor's eviction ban for 2 years past the end of the coronavirus, end of COVID, right? So, and what that's going to be is it's kind of interesting. The way that they've got it is you're not allowed to evict your tenant for zero cause, and non-payment does not mean that you can, just because they don't pay doesn't mean you can't evict them just because of that. And if you do try and evict them because they don't pay, that can be considered retaliatory. So, there's a big issue there. And let's see, what else is in here? Presumes any no cause termination notice issue to a tenant for any unpaid rent that accrued during this period to be a reprisal or retaliatory action. So you can't go after back rent either. Right. Prohibits the landlord from denying tenancy based on the unpaid rent or late payments that accrued while the moratoriums are in effect. That's saying the same thing. Authorizes tenants to adversely impacted by COVID-19 to terminate their tenancy with a 20-day written notice. So as a tenant, if you have COVID, you are able to break your lease with 20 days notice. Which is
difficulties from COVID, like job, or is that, do you mean that you had COVID?
Great question. The notation I have, which is not very clear, which will need to be figured out, says authorizes tenants adversely impacted by COVID-19 to terminate their tenancy. So, an adverse impact could be that I'm paying too much in rent.
Right.
So,
well, let's also look at the fact that this is a bill that is being initiated, but it hasn't passed, and who knows what's going to happen to this bill once it crawls its way through the legislature. It might pass or not. It might get totally changed, and some of these, parts of the bill might get tossed out. They might change that eviction moratorium for 1 year instead of 2. We just don't know. But it's a lot of unknowns for people who are current landlords or who are thinking about maybe becoming a landlord.
And to be clear, I started my career in real estate with renters. I will always back renters. Even this, which sucks for, current clients that are investors, that's too bad. We need more renter protections. Brenton even commented in the comments here, one of Biden's first executive orders also extends the eviction and foreclosure moratoriums until at least March 31st. He's signing that today. So that's good. And I think that that's important too, is we're not just talking about renters being protected, but also landlords and other homeowners who are having a hard time paying their mortgage should also have protections too.
Yeah, because it's important to know that not everyone who's a landlord is someone with mega amounts of money who owns 50 million. I mean, we have lots of clients who are one-off landlords, right? But it's also crucially important, especially in a city like Seattle, where we're already dealing with a huge homeless population and severe lack of affordable housing, that keeping people housed is our number one priority.
Right.
It just has to be. And then finding housing for people has to be our number one priority, especially during COVID. I mean, it's gotten worse instead of gotten better, and I understand that, the city doesn't want to pack a bunch of folks into the housing they did have available or to shelters, but not having an alternative has created way more problems than it should have, because they come up with a solution. So definitely keeping people housed is crucially important. So obviously we are supporting anything that does that.
It's kind of interesting too. I mean, I definitely feel for the landlords in a way, and I'm more pro keeping people in the housing that they have. But it's also kind of another thing, like when things were good, like landlords across the board were like raising their prices 20% every year, and they were kind of taking advantage of the buyers that are in the market now, and now it's on this side, it's boohoo. We can't afford it, which I get. I understand that. But
no, but you're right.
You can't have it both ways.
Yeah, the reason you're getting.
I think that there is a solution that can work for both landlords and the tenants, and I wish that the federal government that was previously in charge had done more to help people pay their rent and pay their bills while we were going through this, and we wouldn't be in this situation. The landlords wouldn't be in this situation as bad.
Right. Somehow we lost Kim, but no, I think you're totally right, because that's like, it wasn't that long ago. You and I and Kim and the rest of the team were sitting around a desk talking about, legislation going into effect in the city to limit 20% increases on rent every year, 10% increases on rent, year over year, because that's true. Like, rents were skyrocketing up until 2018, and every landlord was taking advantage of that.
Exactly.
You're completely right.
That's the only reason why I'm in my condo right now, is because I got a note on my door one day saying, hey, we're going to raise your rent $400 a month if you don't sign a 2-year or 1-year lease. And I was like, I did the math and I was like, well, I can get a mortgage and like have less rent, which I do. So it was made sense for me. And I think that, people that are in the position, to do that, should take a look at possibly, ditching renting and getting yourself into a starter condo somewhere.
Right. And that's, and that's the interesting thing. I was talking to one of our lenders about this, because he's talking about, interest rates might be bumping up a little bit and whatnot. But, we're kind of at a position where it's like, okay, hey, Kim, hi, welcome back. Can you hear us okay?
It's not working.
Oh, well, I can hear you, so be careful what you say. No, she's gone again. Anyway, but the interesting thing, we were talking about landlords. And, it could very well be a time where if you had a high rent, if you were paying $2,500 a month for your rental right now, we could be looking at condos that, could fit that bill and possibly even be more space for you, because there you're talking about, $400 for $2,100 mortgage. What is that? That's about $400,000 thereabouts. I can't remember. My math is all off.
Yeah.
Okay. So say you're buying at about $400,000 with $400 dues, and you could be paying less than what you're paying in rent right now, and that's totally plausible. Yeah. So something to very much consider, for sure. Welcome back, Kim.
I don't know what happened, but be live. Woohoo.
yeah, it happens. It happened to me last time. But we were still just kind of riffing on, like, as a renter, it might be a really advantageous time to be looking at condos as totally for renting right now.
Yeah. And we've had a lot of folks calling us for both. I mean, one of the interesting things that I've noticed is we get a lot of calls on a regular basis. Past weeks of January, the amount of calls from buyers we have we have received has probably tripled compared to normal Januaries. And we're getting calls for folks all over the map, people looking in town, out of town, houses, townhouses, condos, renters. I mean, it's across everything. Mm-hmm. So I think there's definitely a diversity of buyers out there, all looking, new people that are coming into the city looking for places to live, new, relocating people, and people here looking to move up. So I definitely think, I just had a conversation with one of our clients the other day who was like, she's like, I'm thinking my condo is a little bit small. And I'm like, do you want a house? And she's like, hell no, I just want a bigger condo. I'm like, well, you know what? This is a perfect time for you to get a bigger condo.
Seriously. Yeah. I mean, and there might be some, you might take a hit on selling your old condo.
Oh, maybe she just rents her old condo because her equity is pretty high, right?
And that's the thing. That's funny because that was a conversation I was having with a potential listing yesterday where they were like, well, if the townhouse market's a little soft and we're not going to make what we thought we were going to make from when they had it previously listed and it was way overpriced, maybe we rent it. And I was like, yes, you owe nothing on this. Your mortgage is half of what you would get for rent, even in a slow market. Like, be a landlord. Like, if you have the ability to do it, like, we can always use more, even if the rental market is soft. Like, do it. Like, hold off on selling it.
Yeah, smart. Yeah. So we only have a few more minutes left, but I'd love to hear, like, what do you Diva Dudes think is your predictions for 2021 market wise?
I think that from now until probably midsummer, it's going to be a fight for every single property that is out there. And I think buyers are going to have to be ready from the second they start looking at properties and they maybe have their financing order. They need to be ready to get out there and look at things like as soon as they come on, as quickly as possible, and be ready to do all your due diligence up front so that you can write the best possible offer, because every property is going to be a fight. And interest rates, I was reading a lot of articles. It doesn't like they're going to go up for a little while, but they are supposed to go up this year, which is only going to hurt your affordability for what you're actually able to buy, because prices are still going to go up. But when the interest rate goes up, you're going to be able to buy less of a home. So I think the sooner you can get out there, but if you're going to get out there, you've got to put everything in it.
Right. Good. Good.
I would agree with all of that. I think what's getting tougher and tougher for buyers specifically this year that I haven't seen, in the fast-paced 2018 or 16 or any of those, is that we're seeing more and more sellers providing inspection reports for buyers to use in order to purchase. And waive their own inspection. And in a lot of cases, if a house comes on Friday and they're looking at offers on Monday, there is not enough time to get our own inspection. So I think that's going to create a lot of fear and a lot of tension in the buyers that are out there trying to get things. I think we might even start seeing some lawsuits about that. I would, be very wary of that. And just mirroring everything Rocky said, like, be ready to fight like hell. If you're after a single family home and if you have to live, with a Seattle address, outside of those neighborhoods, like Burien had a 14% increase in single family home prices last year, and Renton had 9, I believe. So, it's like even if we go outside of that, like, we're still going to be in this fight all year.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Buyers need to be ready. They can't assume because they're looking in Burien or Renton or Kent or Bremerton or Issaquah or Maple Valley. They can't assume that they're not going to be competing.
Just because it's unheard of to you doesn't mean it's also not a giant pool of people looking.
Right.
And one thing that I've been using as a strategy with my clients this year too, and then I want to hear your predictions, Kim, is the showing time scheduling. So right now with COVID, we have to schedule every single appointment to go see houses. If a house comes on Tuesday evening and you want to go look at it Wednesday afternoon and every single booking time is booked, like, we're probably not going to get that house. Yeah, I'll still try and make time to go show it to you. And no, we're not going to be able to get an inspection in that time. We might have to waive or accept theirs, or include an inspection contingency and roll the dice with that. But we're seeing if showing times are completely booked on houses, which they have been recently, that's a very good sign that house is going to go wildly overpriced.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think in the past, if you haven't been in the market during COVID, and you weren't like on top of what was happening last year and you're new, the thought process that, hey, I could just walk into a house with my agent and look at it, right? And it's not a big deal. Those days are gone for now because you can't just randomly show a house whenever you want. You can't just randomly do an inspection by picking up the phone and calling the listing.
It's one group at a time, 5 people max.
Yep.
Any one time.
So the juggle is real, and it's complicated, and it's frustrating because buyers are not used to that.
Well, and it also means that we can't just like open up Redfin and then like, oh, go see that house, at the end of our tour. Like every tour has a half an hour, sometimes 15 minutes.
15 minutes, right? You were saying
time, and we've got to book all that ahead of time. So if we're going to go see 4 houses, we could be out for 2.5, 3 hours just to get those in.
Yeah.
So,
and I know, like, to your point, Roy, about sellers providing inspections, I know in the beginning of COVID, we did that once or twice because we just didn't know if inspectors would be able to work. But I have a really strong philosophy as a listing agent that I want all of the buyers that we work with who are buying our houses and our sellers houses that we're representing to do their due diligence and have the option to do their due diligence. So for me, this is no different than any other, right? Like we're going to list a house with Team Diva. We're going to strongly discourage our sellers and strongly encourage them to like not do a pre-inspection, but to let the buyer who wins the house do their full inspection and do their due diligence, have no fear, right? That the deal's going to fall apart, especially if it's a multiple offer. And what that does is it also puts a little bit of pressure on our sellers to make sure that their house is in the best condition possible.
Right. So, and the very few agents I do come across that do our strategy, I applaud them like no other.
I wish more agents would do it.
I do too. Right.
But both have this, they believe that, limiting the buyer.
Maybe we need to talk to the higher ups about outlawing pre-inspections altogether.
I mean, like, I don't really.
It's not a thing in Orange County, apparently, because my Orange County clients said that pre-inspections are not a thing there.
It's not a thing in a lot of places. And that's a frustrating thing. Like, you think with COVID, the idea of forcing people to pre-inspect would go away and people would go back to, okay, just let them do. Nope. Instead, it's like, we're going to provide the inspection, take it or leave it. Right. And let's hope that the inspector did a good job, was thorough, didn't miss anything, isn't an idiot, didn't like just neglect to point out something major, right? So that's a huge frustration for buyers. And that's why it's nice when you're a listing agent, when you do listings, especially for a team like us, that we have that control to say, you know what, we're not going to play that game.
Tim says it's pre-inspections are not a thing in Jersey either.
Right. They're not.
I really like your perspective today. Thank you, Tim, for peppering in, your perspective on
they don't need to be a thing.
They don't need to be a thing, right? I love that Dave Nelson also, hi Dave, super fan Dave, popped in and said, listen to your agent.
Seriously. I mean,
if you're going to hire an agent, you should trust them.
And that's the thing, and if you don't trust your agent, call another agent. Like, there are enough of us working in the world. And I tell every one of my clients this, if there's something that isn't working between us, let me try and find you someone else, or let me find you, or like go find somebody else altogether and let me know what's going on, because, there's just too many of us to not find somebody you want to work with.
Right.
Anyway, so what was the final part of your prediction for 2021?
Oh, I mean, I think you guys hit it right on the nose. Okay. I think we're going to see probably a huge spike in prices for the next 6 months, maybe a little bit of a level off. I think we're going to see a little bit more of a downturn in condos. That could change if more buyers start to hop in the market who don't want to buy outside the city and are willing to buy in the city, and that's their affordable price point. But that's kind of shaky. And I do predict we're going to have record low inventory this year. That's what I think. I don't think we're ever going to get. I think we're going to be lower than 2018. I could be wrong, but that's what I think.
No, I agree.
Yeah. So we're getting ready to wrap up, but before we wrap up, I want one last comment about the inauguration. What was your favorite parts of the inauguration today?
Okay, well, besides the poem, I think we were talking about. Besides the poem, I have to say I do love me some Gaga. And I'm always a sucker for the national anthem, especially when it's done right. And she looks amazing. And also, wait, Michelle too. What?
Okay, that hair, Michelle's hair, fucking amazing. I mean, I was just like, yes, goddess. You know, as soon as I saw her,
totally. You know, let's not forget, like, we also got another very, very good Bernie Sanders meme out of this whole thing, too.
Bernie Sanders memes were out of control. My favorite was someone superimposed him sitting next to, like, a chili dog stand in the middle of
My favorite was Bernie Sanders working a merch booth at a band, at a concert.
On a band concert.
Yeah, at a concert.
Yeah. I thought Amanda Gorman was like the shit. I mean, I was just like, you are beautiful. Yeah. It's funny because I didn't know who she was, and I saw her earlier in the crowd. I'm like, she's wearing a sparkly mask. She must be someone special. And then she got up. I was like, oh my God, that's who it is. And she was that poem was amazing. It was like inspiring. She was fabulous. But I also have to give props. I mean, I love Kamala, but I have to give props to Jill Biden because the sparkly coat was pretty amazing. Like, she was perfect from head to toe in that sparkly coat, matching mask.
Credit, because she always looks pretty flawless.
She does always look flawless. Yeah.
Today was a great day for coats at the inauguration.
It was a good day for coats, matching coats, mask, and gloves.
Totally.
Well, thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having me. I love coming on here.
Oh, good.
Thank you again, Maki. We will. Programming note, I think, are we taking next week off?
Next week off.
Okay. And then we'll have 3 shows in February. Yes. You and I the first week, and then Stephanie Gailing the second week.
Yes.
And then
predictions for 2021.
Yeah. And then who do we have the third week?
Oh, the third week. Oh my God, I'm so excited. It's our fabulous friend, Carson St. Clair, who is not just an amazing hairdresser, because she's our hairdresser, but she's also an amazing burlesque performer.
Awesome.
And she is going to come on and talk to us about, what it's like to be a performer, a burlesque performer and a performer making their way in the world of COVID.
That's great. That's a great show.
She's been doing, So she's also been really involved in the Black Lives Matter protests that happened last year as well. She's a fabulous, interesting woman, and I can't wait to have her on the show. So cool. It'll be 2 very interesting shows in February, and and then Roy and I, talking whatever. We'll let you know.
And then, just a shameless plug too. If you want to be a part of our show, reach out to us and let us know what you want to talk about. Yeah, and we'll see if we can fit you in, because we love talking not just with our awesome coworkers and our fantastic hairdressers and everything, but like we want to talk to all kinds of people and see what's going on in your life and what you're doing to get through COVID and what you're doing to support your community. So hit us up, let us know.
And if you have a topic you would like us to address, let us know that too.
Michael brings up a good point.
What?
Sorry. March is Pisces season.
March is Pisces season. We should have Michael on the show for Pisces season.
I think that'd be great for birthday week. The 3 of us on birthday week. I think that'd be great.
All right, Michael, we've just put that out there. You're okay with that. All right, y'all. Thank you. What an awesome show. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Tim, Dave, Tyler, or Tim, Tyler, Dave.
And if you want to throw in comments later, we'll be watching the comments all week. So
Thanks all. All right.
Thanks.
Bye guys.
Rock on.
Have a great rest of your day.